Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing really well. Today I'm going to be showing you how to play the riffs, the main riffs of the incredible thrash metal masterpiece that is Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica on the Ride the Lightning album. One of my favorite songs to play, to talk about, to teach. Just an incredible song. There's a lot of contribution from Cliff in this one. And if you haven't checked out the isolated bass track, highly recommend. Incredible ideas, vibe, sound. He was clearly the key element in the sonic DNA of the early sound and the one that carries on today. And it's going to repeat over and over again. The main thing for you to get, the main idea is these power chords. Practice that idea like this. You can do it slower. Get that in your head first. And then worry about getting the bed of 16 notes that you're going to have to keep in between all of those chords. And very important there will be for you to practice starting the riff. Because every time you start the riff in different parts of the song, you have 16 notes before the power chord. So it's very important to know how to start the riff, etc. Okay? Now let's talk about how to get the sound. The first thing is the pick. You want to use something that's thick enough. This is 1.5 millimeters. And something that's pointy enough. Those are the two most important characteristics for a pick to have to play this style. Fast riffs like that. The other thing, so let me show you a couple of options. This is the one I have. This is the flow pick. I also love Jazz 3s. Again, same thing. Thick and pointy. These are small. I love small picks because for me, it just feels closer to the instrument, more in contact with it. And if you look at some signature picks, like even the Hetfield pick, it has those two main characteristics. Thick and pointy enough. Same thing with like the Petrucci one. Now let's talk about your hand. What you want to do with the pick is have an angle at the string. You want to have an angle because you don't want the string to alter what you're trying to make the pick do. Okay? So by angling, you increase the aerodynamics of the pick with the string. You want to have a quick, accurate attack. So that increases it. At the same time, if this is the string, right? You don't want to dig in too much. You want to pretty much brush the string on the surface. So angled and on the surface. If you're flat and you dig in too much, that's when the problem starts happening. So if you practice and get better, this has to be in place. You have to be practicing like that. The string pretty much just moves, creates the sound that you're actually trying to make. Okay, so angled, about 10% scratch sound, and 90% pitch. And once again, I'm not digging in too much, just on the surface. If you dig in too much, even when angled, it starts sounding a little more choppy. Being on the surface is important because you relax more. Okay, the break with the string, collapsing with the strings, adds tension to your hand. So once again, get the pick right. Something thick and pointy. Angle the pick a little bit, right? So this is my pick angle. And then play on the surface of the string. Other things. Try to be relaxed. I grab the pick with just 2 fingers because for me that feels more relaxed. And I put my pinky on the guitar. A lot of people don't do that. For me it works. If it doesn't work for you, try to see how you are in the most natural way possible That's what your hands are trying to do, finding the most natural position. So for me, it looks like this. Okay? Just find what works for you. You don't have to try to imitate Hetfield's technique or whoever's technique. Pay attention to those things, learn from those things, but find what works the best for you. In terms of where to derive the sound, because this is really important, there's two categories of riff in terms of where the movement comes from. There's the heavy, weighty riffs. Something like this would require, for example, so that's weight, right? It's almost like with that weight, you make the amp chug. And there's riffs that don't require that, like fast stuff, like gallop stuff comes from a different place. So the weight stuff comes more from the weight of the hand, right? My hand is adding weight to it. Here's an example of that riff with no weight. Right, it comes from the fingers. So the weighty riffs will have that hand source, like the source of the movement is going to come from the hand and a little bit from the forearm, and you slap a little bit onto the string. And the other types of riff, which are fast, usually have a lot of 16 notes, that kind of thing, will come from the fingers. It has to come from the fingers for you to be relaxing and be accurate. So Fire Fire with Fire will be from the fingers. So as you practice, all I'm trying to say is mentally try to shift your focus to this area right here. If you start tensing up, it's because you're deriving the movement from here. And it's not a magic switch. It's not that easy that all of a sudden you shift that tension over to this part of your hand. It's not going to be like that. You have to practice a lot. And with the right approach, with the right mental approach, where like if you start feeling tense, try to concentrate and move the tension to this area. Now let's move on to the next riff. The next riff in the song goes like this, slow. So I'm going to play a little bit of the first into the second one. So that was that second riff, which is hard to get because there's a lot of sound in the track and there's reverb. And it doesn't sound that tight. This is part of the era of Metallica where they were using more Marshalls really, entirely, and not the Mesa Boogies. So the sound's a little bit looser on the low end, a little bit saggier. It's not that tight as the Mark II C+ stuff later. So again, it's hard to make out the specific pitches in the track. But once again, slow. Riff B in the song goes like this. Now, important things here. Number one, the transition between riff A and B. You have to get that right. The last chord of riff A is going to be an F chord, F power chord. Okay? That last power chord is the first chord of the second riff. So you have to work on that. because that's one of the most confusing things about this song. People transitioning between the first riff and the second riff. So practice this. Practice the second riff with the F start. So it starts like this. You can also do it with the power chord if you want. Because this is the last chord of riff A. So here's the transition. So that is, again, the most important thing. Once you get riff B, practice the transition like that. The last chord of riff A, it's going to be the first chord of riff B. Now, how to get the sound. The most important thing I see people not talking about for this riff is the bends. Firefighter with Fire has this chaotic element to it. It can't be too perfect, meaning that if you palm mute, for example, you're doing those open E's in the first riff. If you're too perfect, kind of sometimes it loses the feel. Sometimes you gotta have it a little bit open and chaotic in a way. So for riff B, what that means is if you play it too perfectly, kind of doesn't sound like the riff anymore. What we're missing is some bendings. If you really listen to how the riff sounds in the album, something's missing. So I'm bending a little bit. To create that messiness of it, especially the G note. You can bend the F too when you start. And be messy. All right, moving on to the next riff in the song is the chorus, which is probably the simplest riff in the track. Goes like this. That's a good example of a riff where you would want to put the weight of the hand thing that I was talking about earlier. And there, for those 16ths, palm muted, that's an example of where you want to use the fingers. By the way, feel free to make those messy. Go crazy there. If you hear what Cliff is playing, that's kind of the vibe for that. Again, don't be too perfect. Be kind of chaotic with it, but try to play accurate rhythms and groove. So that's the chorus. Again, probably the simplest riff in the track. Here are my favorite ones in the song. Once we get to the bridge, we get this awesome break. And then right on beat 1 for Kirk's solo, James is going to play this idea. It's kind of like a punk drum beat. Right? And to get the accents with the palm muted right, you got to think of that drum beat. That's what he plays for Kirk's solo, and what he's going to play for the harmonized guitar part too. In terms of the right hand picking, once again, palm muted, finger movement mostly, and it's a down, down, up, up, down, 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 up, up, down, 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 up, up, down, 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 up, up, down. Amazing riff. The next thing, the transition riff between Kirk's solo and the harmonized guitar parts, is going to be this. So in this song, you kind of hear this. But if you look up videos of them playing it live or use really good headphones, you'll notice that they're playing more on that F sharp. So, palm muted, E, and then on the F sharp, open, you're going to play this rhythm, which is down, up, up. And you're going to end it on the G power chord, down. When you end it, it's important to practice the transition between that riff and if you're playing the rhythm part. For the harmonized guitar section, you gotta end it this way. So there's one hit on E before we start the rhythm of the punk drum beat again. So after that, we go back to the main riff again, verse, and the next cool riff we hear in the song is basically like the chorus. But it just keeps that figure repeating over and over again. That's an example of a riff where you want to use the weight of the hand. A lot of weight. So I'm slapping onto the strings. After that, ends with that chord. Those are the main riffs and the main ideas to try to get closer to how it's supposed to sound. If you have any questions or if you want me to talk about Kirk's leads, or the harmonized guitar part, the guitar solo, anything you want, please just leave a comment. I'll be happy to make a video about those. But for now, that's all regarding the rhythm guitar parts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.